Hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon when you are watching this video. In the earlier classes, we have completed Unit 1 of Chapter 1, and while discussing the topics in Unit 2 of Chapter 1, we discussed about some of the fundamental problems in any economy or country. We can call them as central economic problems, namely what to produce, how to produce, for whom to produce, and what provisions should be made for economic growth in the name of saving and investment. And we have started understanding how one of the types of economic systems, that is called capitalist economy or market economy or laissez-faire economy, how does it try to solve these central economic problems. We started the discussion on that, and we understood some of the crucial features of capitalist economy. Main two features, we can call them as two major pillars of capitalist economy, are one is private property and the second one is profit motive. In addition to that, there are many other features also. There is freedom of enterprise, freedom of economic choice, and consumer sovereignty. Competition is also one of the common features of capitalism, and very less government interference, or almost we can say absence of government interference. These are all the features of capitalist economies. And we also discussed about how the capitalist economies try to solve their central problems. And what are the problems? The problems are same for every economy. Problems are not going to change from country to country, society to society. Problems are same. What are the problems? Or you can call questions or issues or challenges. Whatever the name we give, problem is a negative word, but definitely that is a reality. It is a challenge that has to be faced. It is a question that has to be answered. What are those questions? What to produce is a question. And how does capitalism answer to that? By giving consumers the choice of choosing whatever they want. So ultimately, who will decide in a capitalist society what has to be produced? When you take society as a whole, simply speaking, demand. Demand is the simple word. Whatever the consumers wish to buy, that's what will be produced by the producers. That is answer for what to produce. And how to produce depends upon the availability of the resources and what is the relative cost of those resources. Accordingly, the producer will decide how to produce. Depending upon the cheaper cost of resources, that decision will be taken. So ultimately, the factor that will be considered while taking this decision is the cost of production, which has to be maintained at minimum level. That is the objective. With that objective, the producer will choose the technology with which production has to be undertaken. For whom to produce, once again, is related to the consumers, once again is related to the demand theory, once again is related to the consumer preferences, but more than the preferences in this case, it relates to the purchasing power of the consumers, or we can call that as buying capacity of the consumers. If there is buying capacity of the consumers, then such goods will be produced by the manufacturers, which the consumers will be able to buy. Here they were willing to buy. That will determine what to produce. For whom to produce depends upon ability to buy. Both put together will constitute demand. And how to produce is something that is related to technology, depends upon availability and cost of different resources. And the fourth important question of savings and investments will be determined by, on a broader basis, the financial system that surrounds in any particular economy. So this is more of a macroeconomic scenario or environment, wherein very important factor will be interest rates. So as a factor, interest rates will have an impact on how the savings are going to be increased or decreased, and how the investment is going to be increased or decreased, and how the consumption depends, of course, on the purchasing power or buying capacity. So somebody earns the income, he has a buying capacity. That does not mean he will use the entire income. He will spend some money, that's what we call consumption. He will save some money, that's what we call saving. In that money that people, the individuals, consumers save, a portion of that will be converted. A portion of that will be converted or finally considered as an investment into the economy, and who will convert this savings into investment in any particular economy is the financial system, inclusive of banks, financial services companies, non-banking finance companies, or just normal gold loan companies like Muthoot Finance and all. Everywhere, wherever there is chit fund companies, etc., etc., including mutual funds, insurance companies, stock market, everything. All these things are put together, the part of financial system. Ultimately, the objective of which is to convert the savings into investment, and how that investment happens, savings happens, that depends upon many factors, but particularly interest rate. And when this investment is growing, naturally the economic growth also will be there in any country. That is the way capitalism answers the questions of what to produce, and how to produce, and for whom to produce, and what provisions should be made for future economic growth. Clear? That is capitalism, which discussed about the features of them and how the capitalism answers these questions. Then we also discussed about the merits of the capitalist economy. We can call them as positive points in relation to this. Closely, if we observe them, the same merits will become demerits of socialism. So we don't need to discuss them once again then. If you consider one system like capitalism very thoroughly, all the other systems automatically can be just flipped. So if you flip the capitalism to the other side, that becomes socialism. You mix both of them, that becomes mixed economy. So nothing special will be there in the other two. Particularly about any one system, if you understand, other two will automatically be understood. So here once, because we started on capitalist economies, and we are going to discuss about capitalist economies only, because the theories we are going to discuss in future in business economics are all related to the market economy. Market economy is nothing but capitalist economy. So our focus area, central area is always a capitalist economy. Then why are we knowing about socialist economies and mixed economies? Only to know that they also do exist. But the theories that we learn, are going to learn, will be more or less in relation to a capitalist economy only. So we should be very much knowing about how this economy or how this kind of financial system or economic system operates. How does it operate? It is self-regulating, and it works automatically with price mechanism. That is the fantastic advantage of capitalism. Nobody needs to sit on top of the economy and control it and monitor it. It has a self-regulating feature. So automatically it works fine. If something goes wrong also, it automatically corrects itself. It is a self-regulatory and self-correcting economy model. And another important point in relation to the human psychology particularly is about existence of private property and profit motive. Both of them will increase the efficiency of the people who are working. And in the capitalism, growth will be faster. And in the capitalist economy, resources will be used more productively, which will turn out to be allocating the resources in a very optimum manner. And operative efficiency will be more in the capitalism. Cost of production will be minimized because basically the methods of production will be always chosen in such a way that they are very cost effective. Ultimate objective of capitalism is to maximize profits, which is only possible when the costs are minimized. So cost of production, always there will be an effort continuously going to minimize the costs. So capitalism strives for that kind of efficiency and lesser costs. So that helps the overall cost to be lesser and lesser over a period of time. And because the capitalism offers incentives to the good decisions, efficient economic decisions can be taken, and their implementation can also be more successful in capitalist economies. Same way, one of the major advantages or features of capitalism is that the consumers are also benefited. Because of competition, the prices will be relatively less. If there is monopoly, usually the prices will be relatively high. When there is a good competition among the suppliers, prices will be less, and everybody, the supplier, will be willing to provide a high quality products. So that is the reason when there is a lot of competition, the quality of the production as well as the price at which the goods are sold, the quality will be high, prices will be low. Both ways that will benefit the consumers. And not only that, the freedom of choice to consumers give them more satisfaction. And capitalism gives a lot of incentives to innovation and technological progress, and that will help any country to progress well, and it will give a lot of boost to the new talents and helps, or one way we can say supports the research, and that's what we can actually practically observe also in the past 200-300 years, how the scientific developments have happened. It's all, majority of that can be given or attributed to the success of capitalism and the features of capitalism, which will give motivation to the scientists also to work hard and get new innovative things, because ultimately they know that they're getting the benefit of them. So naturally people will work harder when they know that they're getting a benefit out of any invention. That's what capitalism promises to the innovators, which naturally encourages the innovators. Then not only that, in general the capitalism gives the freedom or right to private property, because of which there is no more autonomy, more freedom is there, not much of restrictions are there in the general societies where the capitalism has been adopted. And not only that, capitalism generally follows an approach called carrot and stick. We can call that carrot and stick approach. Carrot means it rewards the people who are doing good. Stick means it punishes the people who are inefficient. So automatically the system takes care of the good performers and bad performers. Good performers will get rewarded. Bad performers automatically get the punishment. What is the punishment for them? Not that they will be sent to jail and all. They will not have the best life as the good performers will have. So that itself, capitalism automatically motivates the people to get into better careers and better lives and going and growing further in the careers. That kind of motivation capitalism gives to everybody. That is another advantage of which, because of which, a lot of people will be highly motivated in this type of economies. That is a positive point on a generic note, we can say. And because of the freedoms which are available to not only the consumers but also the producers, the capitalism usually functions in a democratic framework rather than a autocratic framework. It is not a dominant command economy. It is mostly like a democratic framework, and it encourages the enterprise. That's natural, and also risk taking also is encouraged. So risk taking is not something that has to be considered as bad. In capitalist economies, the risk taking is also considered as a good sign, and because of that only innovation happens. See, whenever we talk about any innovation, it has happened only from certain person who was willing to take a risk. If everybody was not willing to take the risks, we would not have had all the facilities that we are enjoying now. Somebody took the risk. Somebody has thought a little differently. Somebody has not followed the herd. From that, new things have come and the mankind and civilizations have progressed. So the capitalism does not discourage such type of new thoughts. It will actually encourage such type of risk taking, I would say, the tendencies of people. So that is about positive points of capitalism. Generally, these are the things that we can talk about. A lot of positive points are there of capitalism, naturally, which will be the negative points of what? Socialism. Everything, whatever you write here, whatever you look at the points here in relation to the positive points of capitalism, exact opposite will be the demerits of socialism. Now the demerits of capitalism will become the merits of socialism. So that when we come to socialism, we don't need to go through these things once again in detail. So only once we have to just go through them. That is in the discussion of capitalism. So first and foremost, demerit of capitalism or the negative point of capitalism, or we can call this as the consequences, which are bad consequences of capitalism. Pros and cons, when we say, pros are those which are for or supporting the capitalism. Cons means those which are opposing the capitalism, which are negative characteristics, which will lead to negative results. What are those negative things? Let us quickly go through them one by one. So first and foremost thing is economic inequality is a very big reality of capitalism, and social injustice will be very much prevalent in the capitalist societies. So social injustice is common under capitalist societies. So simply, in the broader basis, the society will be divided into haves and have-nots. So there will be always a problem of social unrest and class conflict between them. So haves and have-nots are existent, of course, in any society, but in socialist society, the inequality between them will be too much. Haves will become more and more rich, and have-nots will become more and more poor. So that's what they say. The rich become the richer, the poor become the poorer. That's what happens in capitalism. Economic inequality strikes a big blow on the have-nots particularly, and their lives will be pathetic. And that causes social injustice. And social injustice over a period of time definitely results in social unrest and conflict. And that's what happened, if not now, earlier in the beginning of the 20th century or the mid of 20th century. Revolutions have arisen because of the too much of inequality between the haves and have nots. Now once again we can see the situations to be similar. Lot of distinction and differences have increased, inequalities have increased in the wealth as well as income levels of even in India, though we are not 100% capitalistic society, since we have chosen more capitalistic principles in 1991 than earlier. Because of that, the distance between haves and have-nots is increasing. We can very clearly observe that every day also, and especially in the cases of situations like crisis situations, we can see that very clearly. So the conditions in which the rich are living and the conditions in which the middle class and poor are living are completely different, and there is a huge inequality that is going. The control on the wealth, majority of the wealth is controlled by very few people. So that means there is a huge level of an economic inequality. For some time it will be okay, but that is a dangerous thing for any society, because eventually that might create social unrest. That is the danger of capitalism, or a negative point of capitalism. And another main point is, in the case of capitalism, what is important is property than human rights. Property rights are important than human rights. In general, that is given more precedence than human rights. That is the nature, because private property is supreme. So for example, imagine there is a private property, and we use this word, trespassers will be prosecuted. Let us say some trespasser, just like that, somebody has passed through that private property, and legally speaking, the owner of that private property has a right to actually make the other person arrested also. In some countries like US and all, if anyone just enters into your private property, you will have a right to shoot them down also. So that person who is entering is also a human being, but he doesn't have any right. But just because that person has entered into your property, you have the right to shoot them down. So which is important, human life or property right? In capitalism, property right is more important. Human life comes second. Human life is important, but that is secondary. Property is first priority. That is the nature of it. That is the way capitalism generally behaves, or the system of capitalism generally looks like that, or such kind of situations it will create. That is another point of negativity, we can say, about the capitalism. And not only the economic inequalities, because of the economic inequalities, there will be unfairness in the society. Naturally, unfairness is a resultant of the economic inequalities, because there will be definitely differences in the economic opportunities. So the rich will get better opportunities, the poor will not get that much opportunities. That is unfair. Everybody knows that there is unfairness, but it continues. Now just understand, though it is not related directly to capitalism, just for example, let us say there is somebody who can buy a medical seat, they can become a doctor nowadays. So just by spending some lakhs of rupees of money, somebody can become a doctor. So somebody who doesn't have the money, even though reasonably meritorious, but still could not crack a good rank in an entrance examination, they may not be able to become a doctor. So the person who is really eligible to become a doctor is not becoming, because they just, let us say, missed the MCET rank, a good rank by few marks, and they don't have money, so they cannot become doctors. That is out of their possibility. And on the other side, somebody who is useless, who got a horrible pathetic MCET rank without any knowledge also, they are becoming doctors just because they have money. So what is the inequality leading to? That is leading to unfairness, and that is danger for the society only. And not that that is great thing. It is dangerous for society only. What that doctor will come out as? The one who has paid lakhs of rupees of money for buying a capital, for buying a seat in a medical college, paying different types of fees, donations, capitation fees, etc., etc. What is the use of all that? Ultimately, that doctor becomes a pathetic doctor in general, except that they have realized it during that 4 or 5 years of learning what is the importance of education. Otherwise, that they were not serious about education, but they were not deserving to be doctors, but just because they had money, they might become doctors. Like this, you can take examples of any other things. Anybody can become an engineer, just buy the seat and take a management quota, NRA quota, 100 types of quotas are there. You can buy an engineering seat, you can buy an MBA seat, paying more money, you can buy a seat in Harvard also. So you can buy medical seat, anything. But now, a good news is you cannot buy chartered accountancy. That is another beauty of chartered accountancy. Never there is any other criteria in this course other than merit. Those who have the capacity are never treated unfairly in this course. That is the beauty of chartered accountancy. Of course, on that note, I would definitely congratulate all of you to choosing this, because that unfairness which is there is not existent in this course. How many hundreds and thousands of people from below middle class, poor families, auto drivers, sons and daughters, small traders, businessmen, sons and daughters, very poor background families people, the students have worked hard and they have become chartered accountants, and they are actually leading a very good life, taking their family position also to a higher level, and that is fair opportunity we are calling. Why is it possible? Because reasonably this is a cheaper course. I'm not saying it is really cheap, but reasonably when you compare with the lakhs and lakhs of rupees of fees yearly for engineering or medical, that is mind-boggling. It's like too much of money that is involved in that. Compared to that, this is reasonably a cheaper course. It is available to different types of people who are even economically little backward also in the society. That is why that is the fair system which is there in this course. But otherwise, normally in all the other cases, there is unfairness prevailing everywhere. So education is just one portion which is reflective of the society. We are not saying that education itself is the economy. No, education is different, economy is different. But when there is a capitalist economy is running on the capitalistic principles, definitely there will be unfairness in everywhere. Unfairness will be there in the education also, unfairness will be there in the cinema industry also. It will be there everywhere. Even if you take cinema industry, the person who is useless person, but just because he is a son or daughter of some big hero or a producer, they get opportunity. But those who are talented may not get opportunities. Unfair. But who can help that? That's the system. The money speaks. Power speaks. Whoever has the power, whoever is more influential, they get all the opportunities. So there will be a lot of differences in the opportunities. That is a very negative point in the capitalism. What happens because of that? Because of that, definitely the good people, the deserving people who can actually become something also will be not used by the society. And it is danger for whom? It is for the society only dangerous. Society is not able to use the best talented people is not the problem of that person. It is the problem of society. So that is the danger. And we can understand even in that way, most of the top class brains of India are not actually retained in India. Most of them are leaving some other countries and all. That is loss for us only. For them it is okay. They will go to some other country, earn well, and they settle well. They enjoy all the facilities. But for the country, it is a big loss. So like that, if there is unfairness, that will be causing a huge problem for any society. Fair opportunity should be given. Anybody who has a talent, anybody who has the capacity and capability should be given opportunity. After that, if they prove it, then they will become better. If they don't, then they will go. So that's all nature's game. Capitalism also keeps it always survival of the fittest. But if survival of the fittest is the only key, sometimes people who may not be able to compete with the powerful people. That is the nature of it, because when in the nature itself that unfairness is there. That is the I would say the negative point of capitalism. On the other side, if you call it nature, we cannot deny that. We cannot actually change that. If you say, if on one side it is unfair that a lion eats a deer, we can say it is unfair. But we cannot say it is unfair also, because lion has to eat deer, otherwise it cannot survive. So that is the animal kingdom. Same way, that is always two sides of the story. Unfairness is part of the nature, little bit, but at least nature has some balance. Nature will have balance. Capitalism may sometimes lose the balance. That is where definitely the capitalism will enter into the negative zone, no doubt about it. These are the problems. And capitalism generally ignores the human welfare. It doesn't care about human welfare and all. It is all about profit, 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 money, money, money. Welfare of the people, public, their health, their well-being, their welfare. All these things are not important for capitalist systems. That is why it generally doesn't worry much about the human beings or their rights, society, people, and all is not important. What matters is profit. That's what we see a lot of times. I mean, even some of the big industries also, they don't really take care of their workers. The workers will work in a very poor conditions. They will not be given proper accommodation and food. They'll be working in dangerous conditions. Sometimes even that might put the workers' lives in danger also. Still, the owners or management will not care about it. Why is that? Because they don't care about the human welfare and human lives. It's most about the profit. More and more maintenance you have to do, more and more, let us say, pollution control you have to do. That costs more, and that's not what they want. They want always the cost to be minimum. So naturally, what goes for a toss is human welfare. So there will be always a huge collateral damage in the form of human lives also in the capitalism that can be seen everywhere. And we can see many examples, even in the Indian context. We have so many examples of how the capitalist model or capitalist psychology or the capitalist system has created no empathy for human beings' welfare. Mostly the focus is all on profit. Many examples can be taken, even during the corona times also. For example, in some of the decisions taken by the government in this system will be in such a way that they are not worker friendly or labor friendly. Certain governments have stopped the trains for the migrant laborers where they wanted to go to their own places. Why is that? Because they have earlier had some discussion with some industrialists and builders. Because the builders needed labor, the government, state government, did not leave them to go to their own state. So what is that? It's kind of bonded labor. So normally speaking, it all looks very unfair. But that's how the system works. The capitalist system works only for profit. It doesn't care about human welfare. Particularly that human is from low category. If he is poor or lesser privileged person, then nobody cares about him. That is the harsh part of capitalism. Income inequality will be more in the capitalism. That is another big problem. Because of that, the pattern of demand also does not represent the real needs of the society. Somebody will be ultra rich, somebody will be ultra poor. So there is no proper demand for all the required goods and services in the economy. That is a problem. Exploitation of labor is another very common problem. And that leads to basically the strikes, lockouts, and various types of labor related agitations. And there is no security of employment. That is another problem. And that makes the workers more vulnerable. Any capitalist countries like that. India has some bit of labor statutes and laws, and now if you can understand recently, if you observe the newspapers, those are also getting lifted. No more security of employment is there, and exploitation of labor is going to become more and more in India also compared to any other countries. So if countries like USA and all, they also have some labor laws, but on the other side there is no security for employment for the people who are working. So that leads to huge exploitation of labor. Of course, consumer sovereignty is there, we say, but actually, if you observe once again, that is a myth. That's just a eyewash exercise. Really speaking, it is not actually there. Consumer sovereignty. Why is that? Because what happens is, ultimately, the profit motive will work against the consumer welfare only. So, whether the capitalist will be interested in giving the best possible product to the consumers with lowest possible price or making more profit. Naturally, making more profit is their motive. So that might work against the consumer welfare always. That is quite possible. So always the consumers might become the victims of exploitation without even their knowledge. They don't even know that. The consumers might not even know that they are getting exploited. We will see all the beautiful advertisements in the television. Everywhere we see them. Okay, they have this cool drink, that cool drink. But it's okay, just people take it as if like that is normal to have them. But how much dangerous those are, what are the chemicals involved in that, what is the composition of them, how dangerous they could be for a human body, all these things they will not tell. That people will have to know them separately And some people may know them, some people may not know them. So usually the consumer sovereignty, consumer is king, is all just a eyewash exercise. Ultimately, the capitalist economies push their goods and services to the consumers. Consumers like them or don't like them. Slowly they will get used to actually consuming them. Like you take like 20, 30 years back, Coca-Cola or Pepsi products were there, but not much used. Slowly, how many people got used to these things like cool drinks and all. That is how it pushes. So the choice of a consumer has a sovereignty. He is free to think, free to use. All this is just myth. The reality is that capitalism will have that much power. The industrialists and businessmen, the top men, top people at least, will have that much power to push the consumers in buying, making them buy their goods, and in that process, there may be a lot of problems also. Like there were traces of pesticides found in the cool drinks, traces of dangerous chemicals found in the noodles. Like that, many cases we see. Very, very dangerous products are used, or very, very dangerous substances are used in many products. So, all these things are why they are happening. Is it that the companies people or the corporate people they don't know? They know very well, but still they don't care. The point is that for them, what matters is profit motive. So, that is always a issue. Same way, there will be misallocation of resources in the capitalism. Why is that? Usually, the resources will move into the production of luxury goods. So, this is a classic example once again. What is a luxury good? What is a normal required good? What is necessity? What is comfort? These things can be defined in different ways. People may have different perceptions. But usually, the misallocation of resources is always a dangerous thing in a society where the unnecessary utilization of resources will go into luxury goods. Normal goods which are less profitable will not be produced, because of which the resources are all wasted actually in producing the goods which are not much useful for the society. Majorly, they may not be useful for the society, but still lots and lots of money is spent on them. That leads to a huge misallocation of resources in capitalist societies. And same way, merit goods like health and education will be less produced. Why? Because they may not be that profitable. If they are produced also, if they are given also, education and health in the private sector, if they are given also, they become very expensive. Only with a higher profits only they will be provided. But normally they will be less produced. Why? Because the profits will be less in that. There will not be sufficient availability of health and education services. Of course, at reasonable prices, affordable prices, never they will be available in a capitalist society. That is a problem with generally majority of the capitalist societies. And on the other hand, there are many other things which are harmful to the society. They will be more produced. So that is also another point we can just understand. Like just to again take an example, you go to any village, any smallest possible remote village, you can find a cool drink there. You can definitely find in a shop there will be cool drinks which are available, but the same village people might not have drinking water also. They might not have even water to drink and use for their regular usage also. So the village was having enough reach for a cool drink, but it did not have enough reach for normal water which is useful, which is required. That will not be provided in the society. But those which are harmful things, because they will get more profit, they will be provided. That is a danger to the society that capitalism generally takes into. That is the nature of it. And another important point in the capitalist system's nature is unplanned. Because production is unplanned. Nothing is planned here because there is no central planning authority. In capitalism, there is no central planning authority. So what happens because of that? There will be economic instability. Lot of times we see that. And of course, we will also observe that in the last chapter of this particular paper, that is business cycles, where we can understand various things like depression, unemployment. These are all common in capitalism, and that results definitely in a lot of human misery. You look at any capitalist country, which is a so-called developed country, along with the development, their unemployment also is more. A lot of people are unemployed. And what that leads to? That leads to human misery. Unemployed means what? A person is willing to work, but he doesn't have a job. When he doesn't have a job, he doesn't have income. When he doesn't have income, he cannot meet his basic needs also, like food, shelter, or clothes. So that is not possible. Roti kapda makan also it is difficult to gain in such societies where lots of poor people will be remaining unemployed, and they are happening because of what? Because of unplanned production, which causes economic instability. That is the danger of capitalist economic system. Same thing once again is repeated here. Waste of productive resources. Same thing, like misallocation of resources, waste of productive resources, both are same. But why this wastage is happening? Majorly because of advertisement, and this is very common nature in capitalism. Daily you see two different ads of soap. So one soap says we are the best soap, another soap says we are the best soap. Actually, if you just forget about your brand loyalty for 1 second and just think objectively without any attachment to any brand, what the hell it will make any difference by using one soap to another soap? Have you ever experienced any difference like that? You used one shampoo, another shampoo. Did you really experience any difference? Little bit of smell will be different. Other than that, what is the difference? So any product that we use on a regular basis, this toothpaste, that toothpaste, this soap, that soap, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, how does it make difference? Both are black drinks. Okay, little bit one is stronger, one is sweeter. Little bit maybe 1% carbon dioxide is more in this, and other one doesn't have that much. This much small differences require thousands of crores of advertisement. Is that not all waste for a society? If you think, is that all not waste? Absolutely yes. So this is the nature of capitalism. It will require the firms to spend unnecessary money on advertisements and sale promotion. Advertisement, 90% of the case is always false. It is always about propaganda. It is always about telling lies. And ultimately people will get fooled because of those advertisements. Indians are buying Fair and Lovely since 3-4 decades. I don't know how many people have really become fair in these 3-4 decades, and how the fairness really matters also. That is a different discussion. But useless advertisements will continue to cheat the people, and that is one aspect of it. Actually, when there is a product which people need, people should buy it. If there is a need, definitely they will buy it. But what capitalism will do, it will push the people to buy it. It will create that need. Normally need will not be there. By looking at that, you will actually be craving for that. That is how they will create that need, and they push it through advertisements, which is a huge waste of resources. If this much money is spent on really increasing the quality of the products, imagine how the quality of the products will be. If this much money which is spent on advertisements will be used for giving consumer benefits, or giving some kind of benefits to the customers, that is what exactly is a good system. But capitalism doesn't do that. It will spend unnecessary amounts of money on advertisement. That's the nature of it. That is the nature of it, because of which a lot of productive resources will get wasted. And capitalism in general results in monopolies. This again, once again, we have to go back to the nature. Nature, even if you look at an ocean, a big fish will eat the small fish will eat the smaller fish. Same thing happens in capitalism. The large firms will drive out the small ones. Just like that. Fair or foul doesn't matter. So, by whatever means, hook or crook, the big firms only will survive. The small firms, the small businesses will be almost kicked out of the market. That is the nature of it. Because it just follows the jungle law, or the law of the ocean. So it's called Matsya Nyaya actually. So Matsya means fish. The law of the fish is what? The big fish eats. It eats always the small fish, and the small fish eats the smaller fish. And that's how the capitalism works. So smaller fish cannot survive in capitalism. They have to just get out of the market and survive somewhere with least dignity. They will not be getting a fair opportunity to succeed in capitalism. That is a problem. And another important aspect in capitalism is generally excessive materialism related to the goods that we use, wear, and show off. Particularly the conspicuous and unethical consumption also will be more in the general capitalist societies. We can almost say most of these problems are there in every society, because most of the societies in the world now have already adopted the capitalistic principles. So any of these negative points, if you observe in India or observe around us, don't be surprised, because we are also in that similar kind of society where excessive materialism is there. So we are all willing to have only branded things. We need to have branded shirts, branded garments, branded shoes, branded watches, branded specs, branded goggles, everything branded. Conspicuous things are more attractive, like jewelry. You need to have a lot of gold, diamonds, and all. show off is more important. So somebody is having a lot of gold on his body or her body, means so they are rich, they are all considered to be great. How they got it, nobody cares. Ultimately, that is all unethical consumption also, which is regarded as good. So like this, excessive materialism is basically about not just having the goods which are required, but having the goods which are not required also. Excessive materialism, more inclination, more love towards the things. As the saying goes, earlier, or normally speaking, ideally speaking, what we are supposed to do, we are supposed to use the things and love the people. But what the capitalism will make us do, it will make us do the reverse. What the people are doing now, what generally the society is doing now, reverse. And what is that? We use the people, but we love the things. We love the car that we use, we love the bike that we use, we love the costly dresses or watches. That is materialistic, which can be used by us. We love all of that. Lot of attachment to that. But we don't care about a person. We just maybe meet them on the road, or we just go to a restaurant and look at a waiter. We just don't care about him. We just consider him as some insect. There is no respect at all we give to people. So what is that? That is wrong, no? Definitely. And how it happened over a period of time. Earlier it was not like that. Over a period of time, how it happens? Slowly, because the society in India also is moving towards capitalistic principles, which automatically leads to excessive materialism, and conspicuous and unethical consumption also will be leading too much to environmental degradation. Unethical consumption, conspicuous consumption, best examples can be our marriages only. Our marriages, if you see, of course, not the poor or middle class marriages, those will be generally somehow conducted, and some people will come, eat and go. Look at the marriages of the film stars, or sports people, the rich people, the politicians, sons and daughters, particularly if you see what is the level of grandeur they have, how much amount of money they are spending, how much for decoration, what waste of resources they are doing, and all for what? For show off, for one night, hardly for few hours. Why is that being allowed, or why is that considered to be okay? And in fact, television channels are giving live for those functions as if some great thing is happening. That is actually nonsense that is happening. It is unethical consumption. When people are dying on the road without food, you are having that much of expenditure on a marriage, on some other function, where excessively you are using all the materialistic goods which are not actually good, which is not ethical also to really do that. And because of this, what happens? Ultimately, the environmental degradation is also another very dangerous thing that naturally results from a capitalistic society. So yes, it has a lot of merits, no doubt about it. It has very good positive points, particularly when it comes to the psychological things. Capitalism has really touched the normal human psychology. Why? Because human beings are generally selfish. But the same selfishness results in unfairness also. When everybody is selfish, few people will become better off and few people will be facing problems. That is how capitalism will have both plus points, these are all the first merits, and minus points, those are all demerits, we can call as various aspects of capitalism. With that, we can conclude the most important aspect of this particular unit, that is capitalist economy. Why most important? Because once we have this capitalist economy as one part, the other things will be automatically just an extension of this capitalist economy. So for socialist economy, really you want to understand what it is, we don't need to study Marxism and all that, not required. That if it is to be done, it can be done separately. But just to know and understand the essence of that socialist economy, we just need to flip the capitalist economy. Whatever are there as the features of capitalist economy, reverse them. Then that becomes the features of socialist economy. What are the advantages of capitalist economy? They become disadvantages of socialist economy. What are the disadvantages of capitalist economy? They become advantages of socialist economy. Same with mixed economy also. Mix both of them, nothing new there. So once capitalist economy is understood clearly, how it addresses the questions, what are the positive points, what are the characteristics, what are the negative points, if this is understood correctly, the remaining two things, the socialist economy and mixed economy, can be very quickly understood. there is not going to be any new thing from a conceptual point of view that is required for the two different types of economies, which we will do in the next class. And with that, we can conclude this particular unit 2 of chapter 1. After that, we'll move on to solving the MCQs given in this particular chapter. So till that time, take care. Bye bye. Thank you very much.